The sun burned white and merciless over the endless desert of Kepler 442b. Mara Chen wiped sweat from her forehead and squinted at the wreckage before her. The crashed ship was half buried in red sand, its metal hull twisted like paper. She had seen dozens of wrecks like this one. The desert collected them like broken toys. Mara was a mechanic. She fixed things. Mining equipment, salvage haulers, water recyclers, anything with gears and circuits. Outpost 7 was her home. A collection of prefab buildings where 37 humans tried to make a living on this burning rock. The pay was decent. The company asked few questions. That was enough for Mara. She activated her scanner and walked around the wreck. The ship was old, maybe 50 years. Corporate registry showed it had been marked as destroyed decades ago. Strange. Mara's boots crunched on the sand as she approached the cargo bay. The door was sealed shut, but her plasma cutter made quick work of it. Inside, the air was cooler. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Mara's flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Empty cargo containers lined the walls. Nothing valuable. She was about to leave when she noticed something odd. The floor had a hidden panel and it was warm to the touch. Her curiosity won over caution. That was very human of her. Mara pried open the panel with her crowbar. Beneath it lay a chamber filled with gel-like substance, and in the center sat an egg. It was the size of a large backpack, covered in copper-colored scales that shimmered even in the dim light. Mara had never seen anything like it. She checked her scanner. The readings were strange, biological, high-energy output, and most important, the egg was dying. Whatever power source kept it alive was failing. Mara knew she should leave it. Call it in. Let the company scientists handle it. But the egg pulsed with a weak, steady rhythm. Like a heartbeat. Like something asking for help. She could not walk away. Getting the egg onto her hoverbike was difficult. It was heavy and warm, almost hot. Mara wrapped it in thermal blankets and secured it carefully. The ride back to Outpost 7 took 2 hours. She did not tell anyone what she found. Her workshop was separate from the main buildings, which was good. Mara lived alone in a converted storage unit attached to her workspace. Tools covered every surface. Half-finished projects filled the corners. It was messy, but it was hers. She placed the egg in the center of her workshop and started working. Her scanner showed the egg needed specific temperature and energy. Mara rigged up a heating element from old mining equipment. She connected power cells. She built a containment field to keep the temperature stable. It took 6 hours of constant work. When she finally stepped back, the egg's heartbeat had grown stronger. Mara fell asleep in her chair, exhausted. She woke to a cracking sound. The egg was splitting open. Copper scales fell away like broken shell. Something moved inside. Mara watched, frozen, as a small head pushed through. It had golden eyes and tiny horns. A dragon, a dragon. Mara's mind raced. Dragons were called draconids in the official records. They had been extinct for 200 years. The Purge Wars had killed them all. Every child in human space learned this in school. The draconids had been dangerous, aggressive, a threat to peaceful species. The Galactic Council had voted to eliminate them, but now a baby dragon sat in Mara's workshop, small and wet and shaking. The youngling looked at her. Its golden eyes were intelligent and afraid. It made a soft chirping sound. Without thinking, Mara reached out her hand. The dragon sniffed her fingers, then pressed its small head against her palm. Warm, alive, trusting. "I'll call you Ember," Mara whispered. The next 3 days were chaos. Ember needed food, but Mara had no idea what dragons ate. She tried synthesized proteins. The dragon ate them but seemed weak. Mara tried mineral supplements. Better, but not enough. Finally, in desperation, she ground up drecite, the rare element the mining company extracted from the desert. Ember devoured it. The dragon's scales brightened. Its chirps became stronger. Apparently, dragons needed drecite to survive. That fact made Mara nervous. Drecite powered faster than light engines. It was the most valuable substance in known space. If dragons needed it to live, that explained many things about the Purge Wars. Things the history books did not say clearly. Ember grew fast. Too fast. Within a week, the dragon was the size of a cat. Its copper scales had hardened into beautiful armor. Small wings sprouted from its back. And strangest of all, Mara started feeling things that were not her own emotions. When Ember was happy, Mara felt warmth in her chest. When Ember was scared, Mara's heart raced. It was like they were connected somehow. One night while Mara was welding a broken pump, she felt a nudge in her mind. Not words exactly, more like images and feelings. She saw vast skies filled with dragons. She saw green planets and blue oceans. She saw her own face through Ember's eyes. The dragon was telepathic. They were bonding. "This is impossible," Mara said aloud. Ember chirped and rubbed against her leg, but hiding a growing dragon in a small outpost was becoming harder. Ember needed more food, more space, more dracite. Mara started taking extra rations from the company supplies. She claimed she was running experiments with mineral compounds. Nobody questioned her. Mechanics were allowed to be eccentric. Then 3 months after she found Ember, everything changed. 2 company security officers arrived at Outpost 7. They wore black uniforms and carried heavy weapons. Mara watched from her workshop as they talked to the outpost commander. Her comm unit buzzed. "Chen, report to command immediately." Mara's blood went cold. She looked at Ember, who was now the size of a large dog and hiding under her workbench. The dragon felt her fear through their bond and whimpered. "Stay here," Mara commanded. "Stay hidden and quiet." She walked to the command building with her heart pounding. Inside, the 2 officers waited. The female officer had cold eyes. "Mechanic Chen, 3 months ago you salvaged a vessel in Sector 7, correct?" "Yes," Mara said carefully. "What did you find?" "Scrap metal. Some old components. Nothing valuable." The officer pulled up a holographic display. "Our sensors detected a biological anomaly at that site. High energy readings. Dracite consumption patterns that do not match mining operations." Mara kept her face neutral. "I don't know anything about that." The male officer leaned forward. "We'll need to search your workshop." "I'll need to see a warrant," Mara replied. She knew her rights. Frontier workers had some protections. The officers exchanged looks. "We'll be back tomorrow with proper authorization. Don't leave the outpost." After they left, Mara ran back to her workshop. Her mind was racing. They knew something was wrong. They would return with more than 2 officers. If they found Ember, they would kill her. The Galactic Council had standing orders. All surviving draconids must be eliminated on sight. Mara looked at her dragon. Ember had grown so much. The copper scales gleamed. The golden eyes watched her with trust and intelligence. In 3 months, this creature had become the most important thing in Mara's life. She could not let them take her. "Pack light," Mara told Ember through their mental connection. "We're leaving tonight," the dragon understood. Mara grabbed her tools, her scanner, and her emergency supplies. She loaded everything onto her hoverbike. As the outpost slept, Mara and Ember disappeared into the endless desert. Behind them, red sand covered their tracks. Ahead lay the deep desert, the ancient ruins, and a truth about the purge wars that would change everything. But Mara Chen was human. Humans did not abandon their friends. Humans did not accept injustice. And humans were very, very stubborn. The real story was just beginning. 3 months in the deep desert changed everything. Mara had found shelter in a canyon system 60 kilometers from Outpost 7. Ancient rock formations provided shade during the burning days. Underground caves stayed cool. Water came from a hidden spring that her scanner had detected. It was not comfortable, but it was safe. Ember had grown to the size of a small horse. Her copper scales had darkened to a deep bronze. Her wings, once tiny and useless, could now lift her into the air for short flights. She hunted desert creatures and still needed dracite, which Mara stole during night raids on abandoned mining sites. The telepathic bond between them had deepened in ways Mara never expected. They no longer needed words at all. Ember could share entire memories now. Mara saw things through the dragon's genetic knowledge, fragments of a past that existed before Ember was even born. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the desert, Ember pushed a particularly strong vision into Mara's mind. Mara saw a world covered in forests and oceans. Cities made of crystal and stone rose toward blue skies. Dragons flew in massive flocks, their scales reflecting sunlight like moving rainbows. And among them walked other species, not as slaves or prey, but as friends. The dragons shared their world peacefully. Then the vision changed. Ships arrived from the stars. They carried corporate flags. They brought scanning equipment that detected dracite beneath the planet's surface. Mountains of it. Oceans of it. Enough to power humanity's expansion across the galaxy for 10,000 years. The corporations made an offer. The dragons refused. Dracite was not just fuel to them. It was part of their biology, their planet's life force. Taking it would kill their world, so the corporations took it anyway. Mara watched through Ember's ancestral memory as war came to the dragon world. The Draconids fought back, but they were guardians and scholars, not soldiers. The corporations hired mercenaries from a dozen species. They painted the dragons as monsters, as threats, as obstacles to progress. The Galactic Council voted for extermination. They called it the Purge Wars, but it was genocide. When the vision ended, Mara was crying. Ember pressed her massive head against Mara's shoulder, offering comfort. "They lied about everything," Mara said aloud. Her voice shook with anger. "The history books, the news feeds, all of it. Your people weren't dangerous. They were murdered for fuel." Ember's response came as feeling rather than words. Sadness, agreement, and something else. Hope, because one human knew the truth now. Mara wiped her tears and stood. Her jaw was set with determination. That was another very human trait. When humans discovered injustice, they had a hard time walking away from it. "I need to prove this," Mara said. "I need evidence. Real evidence that people cannot ignore." Ember chirped and turned toward the deeper desert. Through their bond, Mara felt a pull. Ember wanted to show her something. They traveled for 2 days into areas Mara had never explored. The temperature climbed to dangerous levels. Mara's environmental suit worked overtime to keep her cool. Ember seemed unbothered by the heat. Dragons were built for extremes. Finally, they reached a region where the sand had a strange texture. Mara's scanner went crazy with readings. Beneath the surface lay something massive. Something metal and stone. "Something old. What is this place?" Mara asked. Ember responded with an image of digging. Understanding, Mara activated her plasma cutter and started clearing sand. Ember helped with her powerful claws. They worked for hours. Beneath the desert, they found it. A city. An entire Draconid city preserved under the sand. The buildings were beautiful, crafted from materials that still gleamed despite centuries of burial. Mara's hands shook as she activated her camera, recording everything. They entered what looked like a library or archive. Holographic displays still functioned, powered by some eternal Dracite source. Ember touched her claw to a control panel, and suddenly the room filled with images, historical records, scientific data, personal logs, all of it from before the Purge Wars, and most importantly, communications between the Draconid leaders and the corporations. Mara read them with growing horror. The dragons had offered compromise after compromise. They had suggested mining limits that would leave the planet's ecosystem intact. They had offered to share refined Dracite willingly if their world could be preserved. Every offer was rejected. The corporations wanted total control. They wanted a dead planet they could strip completely. "This is murder," Mara said. Premeditated murder for profit. She downloaded everything to her portable drive. Thousands of files. Proof that the Purge Wars were based on lies. Proof that an entire species had been exterminated for corporate greed. Then alarms started blaring. Mara's communication unit crackled to life. "Attention unidentified personnel. You have entered restricted archaeological zone. Identify yourself immediately." Through the archive's entrance, Mara saw lights in the sky. Ships, at least 5 of them. Corporate security had found them. "Run!" Mara shouted. She grabbed the data drive and sprinted for her hoverbike. Ember bounded beside her, but the dragon was too big to ride with Mara now. "Can you fly?" Mara asked through their bond. Ember's response was uncertain but willing to try. They burst out of the archive as the first ship landed. Armed soldiers in black armor poured out. "Halt! Drop your weapons!" Mara did not have weapons. She had tools and a hoverbike and a dragon. She gunned the bike's engine and shot forward. Ember launched herself into the air beside her, wings beating frantically. The dragon was not graceful yet, but she could stay airborne. Energy bolts flashed past them. Mara weaved through rock formations as more shots peppered the sand around her. She pulled a trick she had learned in her mining days, dumping her bike's coolant behind her. The superheated vapor created a smoke screen, but there were too many ships. They were getting surrounded. Then Ember roared. It was the first real dragon roar Mara had heard. The sound echoed across the desert like thunder. From deep in Ember's throat came something new. Fire. A stream of white-hot flame shot from the dragon's mouth. It hit the closest ship's engine. The vehicle spun out and crashed into the sand, disabled but not destroyed. Ember was not trying to kill. She was just protecting her human. "That's my girl," Mara shouted. They broke through the security perimeter and raced into the deep desert. The ships pursued, but Ember breathed fire at another one, forcing it to veer off. Mara pushed her hoverbike to maximum speed. The engine screamed in protest. Behind them, she heard commands on the corporate channel. Do not let them escape. The dragon must be eliminated. Priority Alpha. They rode and flew for 3 hours until finally losing their pursuers in a maze of canyons. Mara's hoverbike died from overuse. They would have to continue on foot. Orclaw. That night, hiding in a cave, Mara examined the data drive. She had the evidence. She had proof of genocide. But who could she trust with it? The corporations controlled most of the news networks. The Galactic Council was filled with species who had benefited from draconid extinction. She needed allies. Human allies, specifically. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy for being troublemakers and rebels. They asked too many questions. They did not accept authority easily. Right now, Mara needed exactly that kind of trouble. She pulled up her communication unit and searched her old contacts. There was one person who might help. Jin Rodriguez. They had worked together 5 years ago on a salvage crew. Jin had quit after discovering the company was illegally dumping toxic waste on inhabited worlds. He had a conscience. Mara sent an encrypted message. Jin, need help. Have proof of corporate crimes, big ones. Meet at old way station coordinates. Come alone. The response came 3 hours later. On my way. What kind of trouble are you in, Mara? Mara looked at Ember, who was sleeping with her massive head resting on Mara's lap. The dragon's chest rose and fell peacefully. Trust radiated through their bond. The kind that changes everything, Mara typed back. Outside, the desert wind howled. Corporate ships were searching for them. They had made powerful enemies. But Mara-Chen was human and humans were stubborn. They did not give up when things got hard. They got creative. She began planning their next move. If the corporations wanted to hide the truth about the dragons, Mara would drag it into the light. If they wanted to silence her, she would make sure everyone was listening. The draconids had been guardians of their world. Now it was time for a human to become guardian of their memory. And maybe, if Mara was lucky and stubborn enough, guardian of their future too. Ember stirred in her sleep and made a contented sound. Through their bond, Mara felt the dragon's dreams. They were flying together under open skies with no one hunting them. Soon, Mara promised, soon everyone will know what they did to your people. I swear it. The old way station sat at the edge of the desert like a forgotten tombstone. Once it had been a thriving supply depot for mining operations. Now it was just rusted metal and broken dreams. Mara and Ember waited in the shadows, watching for Jin's ship. Mara's scanner picked up a vessel approaching low and fast. Stealth configuration. Good. Jin remembered how to stay under the radar. The ship landed in a cloud of dust. The cargo door opened and a man jumped out. Jin Rodriguez looked older than Mara remembered. More scars, more gray in his black hair, but his smile was the same. Mara-Chen, you always did know how to pick trouble, he called out. Mara stepped into the light. Jin's smile faded as Ember emerged behind her. The dragon was massive now, nearly 3 meters tall at the shoulder. Her bronze scales gleamed in the double moonlight. Her golden eyes fixed on Jin with intelligence and caution. Holy mother of... Jin breathed. His hand moved toward his sidearm. Don't, Mara said quietly. She's with me. That's a dragon. A real dragon. They're supposed to be extinct. They're supposed to be, but the corporations lied about a lot of things. Mara held up the data drive. I have proof, everything, and I need your help. Jin looked from Mara to Ember and back again. Mara could see him thinking, calculating risks. Then he did something very human. He laughed. Well, I'm already wanted for helping refugees. Might as well add conspiracy to the list. Come on. Let's get you both somewhere safe. Getting Ember onto Jin's cargo ship required some creative engineering. The dragon was too big for the passenger area. They settled for the cargo bay, which Ember did not mind. She curled up among supply crates like they were pillows. So, Jin said as they lifted off. Tell me everything, Mara did. She explained, finding Ember's egg, the telepathic bond, the ancient archive, and the truth about the Purge Wars. Jin listened without interrupting, which was rare for him. When she finished, Jin was quiet for a long moment. If you're right about this, Mara, this isn't just corporate crimes. This is genocide. The entire Galactic Council was involved. I know. You can't just send this to the news networks. The corporations own them. I know that too. That's why I need the Rust Runners. Jin's expression changed. How do you know about them? I still have friends in low places. The runners help refugees, smuggle people away from corporate exploitation. They operate outside official channels. They can get information to people who will listen. Jin was quiet again, then nodded. All right. I know someone. But Mara, these people are careful. Paranoid even. They'll need proof you're not a corporate plant. Mara gestured toward the cargo bay where Ember rested. I'm traveling with an extinct species that has a kill-on-sight order. I think my credentials are solid. 3 days later, they arrived at a nameless moon orbiting a gas giant. The Rust Runners operated from a hidden base carved into the moon's rocky interior. Security was tight. Jin had to give multiple passwords and submit to 3 different scans before they were allowed to land. Inside, the base was a maze of tunnels and chambers. Humans made up most of the population, but Mara spotted a few alien species she did not recognize. Refugees, probably. People running from the same corporate machines that had destroyed the Draconids. They were led to a conference room where 5 people waited. The leader was a tall woman with cybernetic eyes and scarred hands. She introduced herself as Captain Torres. Jin says you have proof of corporate genocide, Torres said without preamble. Big claim. Mara placed the data drive on the table. Everything is here. Communications, historical records, scientific data. The Purge Wars were based on lies. The Draconids were exterminated because they would not give the corporations unlimited access to Dracite. Torres picked up the drive and plugged it into a display. For the next hour, they reviewed the evidence. Mara watched their faces change from skepticism to shock to anger. This is real, one of the other runners said. This is actually real. Where is the dragon? Torres asked. In Jin's ship. Mara hesitated. She's shy around strangers. I want to see her. They walked to the landing bay. Ember was still in the cargo hold, but she had sensed Mara's approach through their bond. The dragon's head appeared over a crate, golden eyes watchful. Torres stopped dead. Stars above. She's beautiful. Ember chirped, a sound that seemed too gentle for such a large creature. Through their bond, Mara felt the dragon's assessment. These humans felt different. Less afraid. More angry at injustice. Can she understand us? Torres asked. She's telepathic. She understands everything. She just cannot speak in words, and does she know what happened to her people? Mara nodded. She carries their memories. All of them. Torres stepped closer, moving slowly. She extended her hand the way someone might approach a nervous animal. Ember sniffed her fingers, then gently pressed her massive head against Torres's palm. Something changed in Torres's expression. When she looked back at Mara, her eyes were hard with determination. We'll help you. The runners will spread this information everywhere we can, but I want something in return. What? Access to the dragon. Not to hurt her, Torres added quickly, but she's living proof. If we can show people a real Draconid, show them she's not a monster, that she's intelligent and peaceful, it makes the story real in a way data never can. Mara looked at Ember. Through their bond, she felt the dragon's agreement. Ember wanted to help, wanted to show the galaxy that her people had not been monsters. All right, Mara said, but nothing happens without her consent. She's not a show animal. Agreed. Over the next few weeks, Mara and Ember became part of the Rust Runners. It was strange at first. Mara had spent so long hiding that being open felt dangerous. But these humans were different. They had all chosen to stand against corporate power. They all believed that doing the right thing mattered more than staying safe, and Ember surprised everyone. The dragon learned to interact with the base population. She helped move heavy equipment with her strength. She used her fire breath to cut metal for repairs. Children especially loved her. Ember would let them climb on her back and ride around the base. One day, Mara made a discovery that changed everything. She was examining her scanner data from the ancient archive when she noticed something odd. Ember had reacted to certain frequencies of energy. Dracite frequencies specifically. Mara ran some tests. Torres, you need to see this, she called over the comm. In the lab, Mara had set up a piece of Dracite-powered equipment, a standard engine cell used in most spacecraft. Watch, she nodded to Ember. The dragon focused on the engine cell. Her eyes glowed slightly, and the engine shut down. Just stopped, as if someone had flipped a switch. She can turn off Dracite engines, Torres breathed. More than that, she can sense them, communicate with them somehow. The Draconids had a quantum connection to Dracite. It's why they were killed. The corporations could not control them because they could not control the fuel source. Can she turn engines back on? Ember chirped and the engine restarted smoothly. Torres looked at Mara with an expression that was part excitement and part fear. Do you understand what this means? Every ship, every station, every power source in the galaxy runs on Draysite. If dragons can control it, they're not weapons, Mara said sharply. I won't let you use her that way. I'm not saying that. But Mara, this is leverage. This is proof that the corporations were terrified of the Draconids for a reason. Not because dragons were dangerous, but because dragons could not be controlled. Before Mara could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the base. Red lights flashed in the corridors. All personnel to defensive positions. Someone shouted over the speakers. We have incoming hostile forces. Torres ran to a display panel. Her face went pale. There are 12 corporate warships in orbit. Heavy assault class. How did they find us? Does not matter now. Get to your ship, Mara. Take the dragon and run. That data needs to survive even if we do not. I'm not abandoning you. You're not. You're completing the mission. Torres grabbed Mara's shoulders. Get that evidence out. Show the galaxy what the corporations did. That's how you help us. Explosions rocked the base. Ember roared, sensing danger through the chaos. Mara felt torn between helping and running. Then she felt something else through her bond with Ember. Determination. The dragon was done hiding. Done running, Ember pushed an image into Mara's mind. Not of escape, but of protecting the humans who had shown them kindness. The dragon was choosing to fight. No, Mara said aloud. Ember, you're not ready for this. But Ember was already moving toward the hangar. Her wings spread wide. In her eyes burned something ancient and terrible. The fury of a species that had been gentle until pushed beyond all limits. Mara ran after her. Torres, I need you to trust me. I have an idea, but it's crazy. Everything about this situation is crazy. What do you need? Give me access to your communications array, all of it. And tell your people not to shoot the dragon. Torres looked at her for just a moment, then nodded. Done. Don't make me regret this. Mara pulled out her portable computer and started typing faster than she had ever typed before. If they were going to die today, the galaxy would know why. And if they were going to survive, well, humans were very good at turning impossible situations around. That was what they did best. The battle for the Rust Runner base was brief but devastating. Corporate warships pounded the moon's surface with heavy weapons. Ember flew between the ships, her fire breath disabling engines but not destroying them. The dragon was trying not to kill. Even now, facing enemies who wanted her dead, Ember held to her species' peaceful nature. But there were too many ships. Too many weapons. The base shields were failing. Then Mara's plan activated. Every screen in the corporate fleet suddenly switched to the same broadcast. Mara's face appeared along with footage from the ancient archive. The evidence of genocide. The communications proving the Draconids had been murdered for profit. And behind Mara, visible through the hangar opening, was Ember in all her terrible beauty. My name is Mara Chen, her recorded voice said. I am a human mechanic, and I am sending this to every news network, every government office, and every personal device in known space. This cannot be stopped or deleted. The truth is out. The corporate ship stopped firing, not from mercy, but from confusion. Their commanders were receiving panicked calls from headquarters. The broadcast was everywhere. Billions of people were watching right now. Torres grabbed Mara's shoulder. You did it! The whole galaxy knows, but Mara was not celebrating. Through her bond with Ember, she felt something new. Recognition. Ember sensed other dragons. Somewhere out there, more of her kind existed. Torres, I need your long-range scanners now. The data made Mara's heart race. 3 locations in different star systems showed the same unique energy signature as Ember. Faint, dormant, but definitely Draconid. More eggs, Mara breathed. There are more eggs. The corporate fleet was withdrawing now, but not because of kindness. Legal teams and government representatives were demanding explanations. The Galactic Council was calling emergency sessions. The broadcast had created chaos across civilized space. Torres looked at the scanner data. Those locations are all corporate vaults. High security. Getting into one would be nearly impossible. Then we will do the impossible 3 times, Mara said with the stubborn determination that defined her species. Those eggs are dying just like Ember's was. Every day we wait, we risk losing them. Jin appeared in the doorway. I have 14 other pilots willing to help. Word spreads fast in the runner network. Everyone wants to be part of saving an extinct species. It will be dangerous, Torres warned. We're human, Jin said with a grin. Dangerous is our middle name. The first rescue was the hardest because they were still learning. The corporate vault was on a frozen moon. Security was heavy, but Mara had studied the corporation's systems for years. She knew their weaknesses. They went in disguised as maintenance crew. Ember could not come, but her ability to sense and disable Dracite power sources helped remotely. With Mara's guidance, the dragon shut down the vault's security from orbit. Inside, they found the egg in a cryogenic chamber. It was smaller than Ember's had been, with scales that shimmered like silver. Mara's scanner showed the egg was barely alive. Move, 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 Torres commanded. They extracted the egg and were back on their ship before corporate security even realized what happened. The egg hatched 3 days later. The dragon that emerged was elegant and sleek with metallic silver scales. Ember immediately took the youngling under her protection, sharing warmth and food. Mara named the silver dragon Quicksilver. The second rescue went smoother. They had learned from the first operation. This vault was on a desert world similar to Kepler 442b. The egg they found had deep purple scales shot through with veins of white. This dragon hatched on the journey back to the Rustrunner base. It was larger than the others had been, with a more muscular build. Storm clouds seemed to gather in its purple eyes. Mara called this one Tempest. The third rescue almost killed them all. The vault was inside a corporate space station. The egg was being studied by scientists who had no idea what they had. Getting in required Jin to fly through a debris field while Ember disabled the station's weapons from her specially modified cargo bay. Mara, Torres, and 2 other runners infiltrated the research level. The egg sat in a laboratory surrounded by equipment. It was the largest egg yet, with scales that seemed to absorb light, black with deep blue undertones like the void between stars. They've been experimenting on it, Torres said, her voice tight with anger. Look at these readouts. They've been trying to extract genetic material. Mara felt sick. She carefully disconnected the equipment and wrapped the egg in thermal blankets. It was cold, too cold. They might already be too late. Then alarms blared. Their cover was blown. Go, Torres shouted. I'll hold them off. Not without you, Mara said. That's not your choice. The egg needs you. The dragons need you. Now run! Mara ran! It was one of the hardest things she had ever done. Behind her, she heard weapons fire and shouting. She did not look back. Jin had the ship ready. They launched as station security converged on the hangar. Corporate fighters gave chase, but Ember disabled their engines one by one. The dragon was getting better at controlling her power. They escaped, but the cost was high. Torres and 1 other runner did not make it out. The black egg hatched 4 days later, and Mara almost wept with relief. The dragon that emerged was the largest of the younglings. With scales that reflected no light and eyes like distant stars, Mara named this one Void, and dedicated the rescue to Torres's memory. Now there were 4 dragons on the Rustrunner base. Ember, the guardian and eldest. Quicksilver, fast and clever. Tempest, powerful and protective. Void, mysterious and thoughtful. The telepathic bond expanded to include all of them, with Mara at the center. Through this connection, Mara experienced things she had never imagined. Ancestral memories from all 4 lineages. Dragon knowledge that went back thousands of years. She learned that the Draconids had not been one unified species, but several related ones. Metallic dragons, storm dragons, void dragons, and earth dragons like Ember, each with different abilities, each with unique connections to Dracite. Together, they were stronger than any individual could be. Mara spent weeks designing equipment to help the young dragons develop their abilities safely. For Quicksilver, she built velocity enhancers that made the dragon's natural speed even more impressive. For Tempest, weather sensors and atmospheric processors. For Void, spatial mapping equipment that worked with the dragon's instinctive understanding of 3-dimensional space, and she taught them, not just survival skills but philosophy. The human concept of justice. The importance of protecting the weak. The value of mercy even toward enemies. The dragons learned quickly. Too quickly sometimes. They were children in body, but carried the memories of an ancient civilization. It created a strange combination of innocence and wisdom. One day, Jin brought devastating news. Corporate forces captured one of our supply runners. Man named Garcia. They're torturing him for information about this base. We have to rescue him, Mara said immediately. It's a trap. They know we will try. So, We still have to try. That's what humans do, Jin smiled sadly. Yeah, it is. The four dragons listened to the discussion. Through the bond, Mara felt their agreement. They would not let a human suffer alone. But planning the rescue was complicated. Corporate intelligence had learned about the dragons. They would be ready for Ember's power-disabling ability. They would have backups and countermeasures. Mara worked for 3 days straight, barely sleeping. She modified the dragon's equipment. She studied the corporate ship where Garcia was being held. She ran simulations until her eyes burned. Finally, she had a plan. It was dangerous. It would require perfect coordination between humans and dragons. They would likely face a commander named Vex who had a reputation for ruthless efficiency. Are you sure about this? Jin asked. Mara looked at the four dragons. Ember, who had grown from a fragile hatchling into a powerful adult. Quicksilver, Tempest, and Void, who represented the future of their species. Through the bond, she felt their determination, their courage, their trust in her. No, Mara admitted, but we're going anyway, because that was what humans did. They saw someone in trouble and they helped, even when helping was dangerous. Even when the smart move was to walk away, the dragons chirped in agreement. They had learned this from their human. Compassion over caution, loyalty over safety. Together, they would face whatever came next. The rescue of Garcia would either prove that dragons and humans could change the galaxy, or it would be the end of everything they had built. But Mara Chen was not afraid. She had a dragon by her side. She had friends who believed in doing right, and she had the stubborn human refusal to accept defeat. Sometimes that was enough. Commander Vex's flagship hung in space like a predator. The massive vessel bristled with weapons and housed 300 soldiers. Garcia was somewhere inside, probably in the detention level. Mara knew this was a trap. Vex knew they would come, but the commander had made one mistake. He thought humans were predictable. Everyone ready? Mara asked through the communication channel. 4 affirmative chirps came back through her bond with the dragons. Jin and 12 other pilots confirmed they were in position. The plan was insane. It would probably fail. They were doing it anyway. Let's show them what happens when you hurt our people, Mara said. Phase 1 began with Quicksilver. The silver dragon was the fastest of the 4. She shot toward the flagship at impossible speed, a blur of metallic scales. The ship's defensive guns tried to track her, but she was too quick. Quicksilver wove between the weapons fire like she was dancing. Then Tempest arrived. The purple dragon called to the storm that lived in her blood. Around the flagship, space itself seemed to crackle with energy. Electromagnetic interference scrambled the ship's targeting systems. Sensors went haywire, now, Mara commanded. Void folded space. That was the only way Mara could describe what the black dragon did. One moment, Void was kilometers away. The next, the dragon was beside the flagship's hangar bay, creating a gravitational distortion that pulled the doors open. Jin's ship shot through the opening before security could react. Mara was in the co-pilot seat, her portable computer linked to every system she could hack, and Ember was in the cargo bay, ready for anything. They landed hard inside the hangar. Corporate soldiers poured in from all directions. Jin grabbed his rifle. Mara grabbed her tools. They ran for the detention level access. Outside the ship, through cameras and the dragon's shared vision, Mara saw the real battle beginning. Ember emerged from the cargo bay like ancient fury given form. Her bronze scales gleamed under the harsh lights. Her golden eyes swept across the assembled soldiers. Then she roared. The sound echoed through the entire flagship. It was not just noise. It was a challenge. A declaration. The last dragon of the Earth lineage was done hiding. Soldiers opened fire. Energy bolts splashed against Ember's scales, and the dragon barely flinched. She breathed fire not at the soldiers but at their weapons. Metal melted. Power cells exploded harmlessly. She was disarming them, not killing them. Detain that creature. Commander Vex's voice boomed over the ship's speakers. Use lethal force! But Ember was not alone. Quicksilver zipped through the hangar, moving so fast she was just a silver streak. She knocked soldiers off their feet without hurting them, just confusing them. Tempest sent electrical pulses through the ship's systems, causing lights to flicker and doors to malfunction. And Void, the black dragon, did something that made Mara's human mind ache. Void seemed to be in multiple places at once, folding through space like reality was just a suggestion. Mara reached the detention level. Guards stood ready. Before they could fire, she activated the device she had built specifically for this moment. It was a Dracite pulse emitter, designed with Ember's help. The device sent out the same frequency the dragons used to communicate with Dracite. Every weapon in the corridor shut down instantly. What the? A guard started. Down on the ground, Jin shouted, his rifle still working because it used old-fashioned chemical propellants. Mara had insisted on it. The guards surrendered. Mara ran past them to the cells. Garcia was in the third one, beaten but alive. Mara, he said weakly. You actually came. Of course we did. We're human. We do stupid things for our friends. She overrode the cell lock. Garcia stumbled out and Jin caught him. Can you walk? Fast enough. Let's get out of here. But Commander Vex had one more surprise. As they ran back to the hangar, blast doors sealed shut in front of them. Vex's face appeared on every screen. You've caused me considerable trouble, Mechanic Chen, the Zentari commander said. His reptilian features showed no emotion. My orders were to capture you alive if possible. That option has expired. Sections of the wall slid open. Combat mechs stepped through, each one 3 meters tall and armed with heavy weapons. These did not run on Dracite. They used quantum batteries that the dragons could not affect. Jin swore. Garcia raised his fist despite his injuries. Mara activated her comm. Ember, I need help in Corridor 7B. Through their bond, she felt Ember's acknowledgement. Then she felt something else. All 4 dragons were linking their power together, with Ember as the focal point. The wall exploded inward. Ember's massive form crashed through metal and circuitry like they were paper. The dragon roared again, and this time Quicksilver, Tempest, and Void joined the sound. 4 dragon voices in harmony, representing 4 lineages thought extinct. The combat mechs turned toward this new threat. Ember's fire breath melted the first one's armor. Quicksilver darted in, her claws finding weak points in joints and servos. Tempest's electrical pulses overloaded the mech's circuits. Void created gravitational distortions that crushed metal. The mechs never stood a chance. Mara, Jin, and Garcia climbed onto Ember's back. The dragon charged back toward the hangar, her 3 younger companions clearing the path. Soldiers scattered rather than face 4 enraged dragons. They reached Jin's ship, took off while energy bolts splashed against the hull. Vex is targeting us with the main cannon, Jin said, checking his sensors. We're not going to outrun that. Mara looked out the viewport. Commander Vex's flagship was rotating, bringing its massive primary weapon to bear. That gun could vaporize their ship in one shot. Ember, can you feel the Dracite in that gun's power core? Mara asked through the bond. She felt the dragon's affirmation. All 4 of you work together. Don't just shut it down. Overload it. Through the bond, Mara felt the dragons linking their powers again. 4 different lineages. 4 different approaches to Dracite manipulation, all focused on one target. The flagship's lights flickered. Power surged and crashed across its systems. In the weapon's charging chamber, the Dracite reached critical instability. All hands abandoned ship. Vex's voice came over the corporate emergency channel. Evacuate immediately. The flagship did not explode. Instead, all its systems died at once. Escape pods launched in every direction. The massive vessel went dark and dead, drifting in space like a monument to corporate arrogance. Mara felt no triumph. Just tired relief. Is everyone okay? She asked. 4 chirps confirmed the dragons were unharmed. Jin and Garcia gave thumbs up. The other Rust Runner ships reported no casualties. Then Mara's communication system came alive with hundreds of incoming signals. News networks, government representatives, independent journalists. Everyone wanted to interview her to see the dragons, to know more about what really happened during the Purge Wars. Jin, can you patch me into the main galactic communication network? Mara asked. All of it? Every channel that will carry the signal. Jin worked his controls. Done. You're live across 50 star systems. Probably more in a few minutes. Mara took a breath. Then she activated her camera so everyone could see her face. Behind her, visible through the ship's viewport, the 4 dragons flew in formation. Magnificent, powerful, peaceful. My name is Mara Chen, she began. I am a human mechanic. 6 months ago, I found a dragon egg dying in the desert. I should have left it. I should have followed orders. But I couldn't walk away from someone who needed help. That's a human thing, I guess. We don't abandon people. She gestured to Ember, who flew closer to the viewport. This is Ember. She is not a monster. She is not a threat to galactic peace. She is a person, an individual with thoughts and feelings and dreams. Her species was not killed because they were dangerous. They were killed because they refused to let corporations strip their world for profit. Mara pulled up the archive data on her screen. I have shared all the evidence with independent investigators. You can verify it yourself. The Purge Wars were genocide for profit. The Galactic Council knew. The corporations knew. And they did it anyway. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. The draconids are not extinct anymore. There are 4 dragons now. Maybe more eggs exist somewhere. And I promise you this, I will protect them. Humanity will protect them, because that is what we do. We stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. We fight against injustice even when fighting is dangerous. Through the bond, Mara felt Ember's pride and love. The dragon sent a message not in words but in emotion, and Mara somehow knew how to translate it. Ember wants you to know that her people do not seek revenge. They seek only to exist, to fly, to live in peace. They forgive the galaxy for what was done, but they will not be victims again. Mara smiled. Neither will we. She ended the broadcast. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Garcia started clapping. Jin joined in. Through the bond, Mara felt the dragon's equivalent of laughter. The months that followed changed everything. The Galactic Council was forced to acknowledge the genocide. Investigations revealed corruption across multiple governments and corporations. Some officials resigned. Some were arrested. Reforms were demanded. Kepler 442b was declared a sanctuary world. The mining operations were shut down. Mara returned to the planet with all 4 dragons and began the slow work of restoration.